Hello Gypsies, it's Gav. Welcome to another one of my videos. Today we've got the 15mm Battlefront Flames of War gaming tank that I've done a bit of scratch building to, just to make it look a bit different from the original. I've obviously, as we know, I think I've shown this before, opened up the hatches. I took off a hatch at the back there, like as it was bust off. I will put some type of putty or something in, mate. I don't know, whatever I'm going to decide is going to be wedged at the top of that. I've thinned out the mud guards, obviously damaged them and bent them in places. As I said on the last video, you can get two sets of these side skirts, and you get a damaged set and a straight set, and I think most of us would normally go for the damaged set if we were just doing, say, one tank. And I've just added a few chip paints and stuff like that, and just gone around with I use rubber black, just acrylic paint. I don't often use the oils for weathering. I quite often just use acrylic paint. I use it a lot, so I'm quite happy with the results, if that makes sense. Yeah, you can get staining if you don't push it around right, and there's lots of things to it, but because I paint with acrylic on figures all the time, I tend to be quite happy using acrylic on this scale anyway to do a bit of weathering. So the tank itself, let's put it down so it's not going all over the shop. Let's get there we go. Yeah, that seems a good image. Yeah, the tank itself in real time is set in Normandy, obviously 1944, and I'd only got one set of decals which I'd bought, because obviously these are all bought from resellers. I haven't bought a box of these, I've just bought a sprue, and I also bought, when I was doing the Nashorn stroke Hornice, vice versa, I bought a decal sheet which got a fair amount of numbers on and a fair amount of Balkan crosses, but they're black and white. Now there's always, as usual, the usual bum fight of what colour numbers were on the tanks, identification numbers. You can normally see them on the side, not always, but on the side, and not always, but quite a lot of time with these Tigers anyway, in Normandy, on the stowage bin at the back. Usually it's got a Balkan Cruise, a Balkan Cross on both sides, on the lower part of the hull. The problem is on this side, obviously we've got another towing cable, so when I do add one on, it'll only be on this side, obviously. I'm not putting any divisional markings on, unless I can't remember which of the Waffen SS there was. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3. I think there was 2 Waffen SS heavy tank battalions in Normandy, and either 1 or 2 of the Heer, and the Heer is the army. You often see in war films and that keep calling the Wehrmacht, and the Wehrmacht is the whole German military outside of the Waffen SS or the SS. So the correct name is the Heer, so that's H-E-E-R. So you've got the Schwere Panzerabteilung 503, which is the army version. I have to look up what it's if it's got a battalion symbol or divisional symbol that it was attached to. I'm not sure, but I haven't got any of those type of things anyway, so it will just be numbers and the Balkan Cruise on the one side. If I'd have done one of the Waffen SS, like I can't remember which one, I think one of them from its original parent unit had the single key device, but as I'm not doing that, it doesn't really matter. So camouflage, I'd gone looking at camouflage for a different, and I wanted this is obviously in the time of, I've done those later ones in the war where they were more that very light coloured, bland, ambushy type of camouflage. This one's more of a yellowy, orangey ochre type colour as a base. I went with a couple of you know, one of the, I think it was AK or MiG, one of, you know, they have them books, and I just saw online a couple of photographs there of somebody put up, and I went with that one, not thinking about the numbers that I'd got. So eventually I found that the Schwere 503, Schwere Panzerabteilung 503 Army Heavy Tank Battalion had black and white numbers, or at least some of the companies did. So that's what I'm putting on. Now the only thing is, on the version that I saw, it didn't have camouflage road wheels. Obviously I took this from a different one which had red and white numbers on, but I'm not going to beat myself up over it. Whether every single tank in every, I mean, let's face it, the crews were quite often, sometimes it was sprayed on, other times they were told to, or that it was sprayed on, but that, you know, they were spraying it themselves in the field, or painting it, hand painted it in the field, whatever. So I can't see why there couldn't have been a Tiger in that unit that didn't just have plain wheels. It had camo wheels. So that's what I'm going for anyway. So it's going to be the 503rd, 503 Army Heavy Tank Battalion, Tiger Battalion. The heavy tank battalions, not always, but they did have separate heavy tank battalions that could be then moved to different locations, sometimes as a battalion, sometimes as companies. And obviously the Germans were very good at throwing these ad hoc Kampfgruppe, you know, these battle groups. And quite often, you know, if there were two spare Tiger tanks that happened to be in a position that a general needed to throw in with another armoured unit to make a, you know, for a particular job, then they could be co-opted into that. So that's my tank so far. He's going to get some decals on later on. It's had a coat of matte varnish over it because I was spraying some figures and I thought, well, why not? These are my crew. Let's put those there. Obviously not the large guy, he's slightly large for that one, and the wrong period. But that's my tank commander. Obviously he's got his officer's hat on, but I believe senior sergeant majors, Spies is it? Spies sergeant majors. They I believe they had those on. Senior NCOs had those caps as well. They call them crushers because they could crush them up really. Now this guy is going to be obviously my bow gunner, machine gunner, radio operator. He's going to be my driver. Now this fella here had a helmet, and I've tried to vaguely file it into a Feldmutz, so a cap variant. He's obviously a tank commander, but what I'm going to put it, and he's got the binoculars. I can't see why I can't claim that they're just as we'd say in the army, a Bakshi pair of binoculars, so a spare pair. You know, let's face it, they're dropped equipment and dead people all over battlefields, and it's not hard to score yourself a pair of binoculars. So this loader, to help his commander, has got binoculars, and I don't know if I'll be doing it, but I don't mind his arm being up. I'll have him twisted to one side as if he's talking to or shouting to some Panzer Grenadiers or something, you know, asking them where the last time they saw that Sherman tank. So yeah, they'll be painted up over the next couple of days. Now this guy here still needs weathering on him. As I say, I've done the scratches and done some highlights on the edges, which I'll probably have to redo. I'm not going over heavy with this. There was rain in Normandy at certain times, and we all know the huge big storm that smashed up the Mulby harbours and that. But I'm going to go with a fairly light dusting. In the treads, there'll obviously be granulated muck in the treads. I did drill out the holes for the ubiquitous towing shackles, but I think the towing shackles are going to end up in front of the tracks slightly. So I probably still will bend some out of wire and put those on. I've done a couple of shell hits. There were a couple of others, but forgetting that there was one down here, the favourite place to score it on a Tiger, as in there. I've got a few pictures, mainly from the Italian front, where crews are pointing to whether it's tanks, anti-tank guns have put around in the base, which is obviously one of their thickest parts. But and it's just you know, you've got that classic, as if somebody's punched very slightly into the Tiger and done much else. But I put one there, and I'd put one on the side without realising I was going to be putting tracks on. Also putting the turret numbers on. That's going to be fun. I can get one on that side probably. This side. Oh well, we'll just have to see how that works out. Yeah, so we've got some busted off Zimmer mitts. Oh, these lines. If you're not into your military or World War II, these lines are representing Zimmerit magnetic paste, like a concrete type substance, and it was put on with, like, I believe it's put on like almost like a waffle type constituency. This is fairly simplified. It's a 15mm tank, so that I think they've done a really nice job, and they've tried to vary some of the. They have tried to vary some of it. You know, it is what it is, but I think it's nice enough. Yeah, so that's one of the favourites of on the Eastern Front. Not so much on the West, was to stick magnetic, and the Germans were very good at it as well. In reverse, they did a lot on our tanks in Normandy, which is sticky mines, you know, magnetic mines on the tanks, and take them out that way. So the Germans came up with this, like I call it concrete, you know, type of stuff to put on the sides. And they did drop it on the latter part of the war. I think not so much, I don't think, because it wasn't working. I think it was just they just were running out. They just needed tanks out the factory and on the battlefield type of thing. And let's face it, in the very last closing couple of months of the war, they were more or less rolling out driving out the factory and straight out onto the front. It was that close. Yeah, we dinged up these are exhausts, and these are obviously the shrouds that cover them or whatever, and ding those up. So yeah, that's a jack, by the way, and these are different towing pulleys, I believe. I've not gone for the rusty steel cables. You see it a lot, but my reasoning was a lot of these cables were used a fair bit. I mean, it's a famous, it's a bit of a canard really. They say that you know, the Tigers were constantly breaking down and that. Well, on route marches, on roads and that, lots of tanks break down. You know, maybe not so much modern ones, but even modern ones need to be transported as close to the battlefield on rail, or even, you know, like on low loaders, to put the less stress on the tracks that you can do. But I was reading a couple of books, and they were said actually for reliability the Tiger was more reliable than the Panther. Controversy there, but that's what I've read. It was actually when they do that. I think it was actually I've got a book from the Tank Museum on their Tiger, and I swear it might be in that one, it might not, but I've definitely read in a couple of books where they said the actual, when you put all the crunch all the numbers together, these were actually more reliable than the Panther tank. So anyway, it was going to be a 2-minute show the guys. Yeah, the guy's your little tank, Gav, and that's it. But oh well. So yeah, next job, get those figures painted. I will make a little base for it, like I did with the other one. That's time consuming, so you know it'll probably disappear for a few weeks while it's getting. Well, I'll show the crew in it and everything, and the weathering done, and then you know it'll take a bit of time just to get some type of base together. Again, it'll just be a backdrop type of base. So thanks a lot. As I say, anybody that's interested in getting these little tanks, they've just put Flames of War 15mm tanks in. The older ones were always made of resin with bits of white metal, but they went over to making them in plastic. They obviously do the figures as well, which are in more of a war gaming type poses, rather than say like your classic, like this, you know, this guy here with his little pop. You know, I prefer those type of poses. But you can get figures for them, obviously. These ones are plastic. You can either buy a box of them where there'll be 3 or 4 Tigers in a box. Obviously it'll be a lot more expensive, or you can do like I did, just buy a sprue off eBay. The resellers, they break the boxes up and sell the sprues, the decals separate to make maximum profit. But for someone like me who just likes to build the odd one, I will sell these on afterwards if possible. There might be a war gamer out there that that might want them. I can't see me. I did think of keeping them because now I'm going back into doing some wargaming, but my wargaming for World War II will always be in 6mm, so I don't really see the point in hanging on to them. And if I did, I could always make some more. So I'll probably try and put these up for sale. The 15mm wargamers out there might want a single tank if you're not doing a Flames of War game. There's lots of other games out there that'll just be, rather than 5 Tiger tanks, there'll just be one in your scenario type of thing. So hopefully get my money back so I can invest in and getting some more. Anyway, look after yourselves. Coming up, we've got I'm getting quite far into painting that Hysterix agent figure for the Phil R Miniatures appreciation build. He's got all the blue on his uniform done, his backpack's done, greatcoat wrapped up done, and I'm just about to do the ticking stripe or the blue stripes on his bearskin cover that he's got on his backpack, so that'll be fun. And I've got Bavarians just about to also start painting the commanding officer for the Bavarians horse. That should be fun also. What else have we got? I have got a couple of Normandy books I want to show you, but I don't want to bother with that until I actually get the I've got those figures coming in from backers at some stage. They usually take a few weeks to get, because obviously you go in a line to get, they more or less freshly mould them or whatever, so I'm not expecting them for 3 or 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. I'm not, as long as it's not months and months, I'm not overly stressed at that. So yeah, there's that, and there was something else and it's completely left me my mind as usual. So look after yourselves. Oh, World War II 28mm Germans. I did a fair bit on those the other night. Still not finished, but not far from. So look after yourselves, and we'll catch each other very soon on one of my many videos. Cheers.